Hey everyone, you are at the top of Camp Hope looking over the Fraser Valley in British Columbia, Canada. And this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner, and you're watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. Hey everyone, this is Devin Francis, aka Leonard Meltzner.
Hello, people of the earth. This is Victoria.
And you're watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
Did I get it?
Too late still. This is episode 26. Last week was, or 2 weeks ago was, episode 25. Yay, math. Where we had our wonderful interview with the fabulous Aria Noel Curzon, which was an amazing time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we did.
It was so much fun.
It was just really cool getting to talk to someone from Odyssey.
Especially
and Aria,
with the ducky thing at the end. As you can see, we totally lost it.
It was a good day, to be sure. But today, we have 2 more episodes for you that we're going to hash and dissect and pick apart, talk about the nitty-gritty things. And it's kind of a special review episode because it is kind of defining a new format for how reviews are going to be in the future. And why is that, Victoria?
Because the Adventures in Odyssey Adventure Club is coming out and we are members, so we're going to be reviewing the new monthly episodes that they're going to be releasing.
Yes, some of you may remember way back in episode 12 of the Oddcast, we reviewed Big Trouble Under the Big Top, and we talked about the Odyssey Adventure Club because it was and is still a highly controversial subject in the fandom right now. And for those of you who don't know what it is kind of like Netflix for Adventures in Odyssey. You pay $15 a month, and you can register a bunch of devices to be able to stream the entire library of Odyssey, which is for sale, plus the family portraits and soon to be the Harley episodes. Apparently, they'll be releasing the animated films one every Friday night,
which we might review a couple of those.
We'll see how things go.
We're probably going to review The Last Days of Eugene Meltzner because that's the only one we actually do own in general, because I got it for Devin for Christmas to taunt him because he doesn't like the movies and neither do I.
What else? It also includes a subscription to Clubhouse magazine and a whole bunch of bonus features for the episodes and everything, but the real big thing that's made it so controversial is the fact that instead of having two albums in a year, 24 episodes, like Odyssey has done for so long, except for last year, but that was a special case, there's now going to be one broadcast album a year and 12 episodes, which are exclusively released as a part of the Odyssey Adventure Club. And this is very controversial because up until now, people could always hear episodes for free when they come on the radio, but now half of the episodes that will be coming out you'll only be able to hear if you are a paying member of the Odyssey Adventure Club. So obviously there's a very big sticking point for a lot of people, and some people are boycotting the show, at least temporarily. A lot of people are very mad. We are still very not in favor of the idea, but partially because we need to have every single episode of Odyssey, and partially because we have a podcast where we review all of the new episodes for you. Victoria and I have a subscription to the Odyssey Adventure Club so that we can bring these episodes to you. So as I was saying,
we're doing this for you guys.
Yes.
Very appreciate
This is totally for you, not for us at all.
It's for us a little bit, but it's like half of it is for us. Slightly bigger half is for you guys.
At least a quarter of it is for you.
Yeah, that's more accurate.
Because there's one new episode released every month, and now because of the new schedule, as mentioned in our last episode, we're only doing episodes every second week now. That means we're only doing one review episode per month. So that means that our review episodes, where we review 2 episodes, will coincide perfectly with the release of the Odyssey Adventure Club episodes. So review episodes will now be, in general, because 1 month isn't exactly 2 weeks. It's a little floppy, but basically, the review episodes from now on will be the Odyssey Adventure Club episode for the month, followed by another episode that we choose. And for this week, it will be the January episode, the launch part 1, and we will be following it with a review of By Any Other Name. Why are we reviewing By Any Other Name, Victoria, in the middle of January right now, instead of, say, New Year's Eve Live to celebrate Happy New Year, Happy 2014, everyone?
Well, it's because a beloved member of the cast and of our hearts. Hearts. What side is your heart on? Is it like in the middle or left?
It's in the middle left.
Middle.
Basically in the middle, but the beating part is on the left.
Here has unfortunately passed away, who is Dave Madden, who was the voice of Bernard. Well, most well known for an Odyssey is the voice of Bernard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave Madden passed away on the 16th of January, which is probably actually in the week that this episode was supposed to come out, come to think of it.
And for those of you who don't know what Odyssey is or who Bernard is, why are you here? And he also played Reuben Kincaid on The Partridge Family, which I have watched.
Yes.
And
He's
I
also
really
on The Curse of Monkey Island, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, and a bunch of other things. So overall, Dave Madden was in 94 episodes of Odyssey. He played 19 different characters, and he was in one animated film, which was The Last Days of Eugene Meltzner.
Yeah, he tried to get Eugene to not blow up
suicide bomb
himself in a bank or something like that. You should watch it. It's interesting. The conclusion's really disappointing, though. What? You're not gonna die. It's just like plant DNA or what was that even? I can't remember.
It was a disease that only affects ants.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Which you'd think Eugene would know. But yeah, it was a weird ending. But those are the animated films. They're there so that we can make fun of them. Even the audio show made an episode expressly to make fun of how ridiculous the animated series is.
You guys should have seen it when we first watched that, because Connie wears like, what was it, like a white sweater or something like that instead of her green one, and she's like black lipstick on, and she looked like a total goth for the whole
but we're not going
episode.
to talk about that now. I'm not going to talk about that now. Bernard himself is the 5th most mainest character in Odyssey, having been in 87 episodes.
You just said 94.
What?
You said 94.
No, Dave Madden was in 94 episodes. Bernard was in 87.
Okay.
Yes. Bernard, he's the window washer, he's the Bible storyteller, the proprietor of BTV, and he's second cousins 3 times removed with Eugene. So, is that what it is?
It sounds right.
Let me check my Walton Meltzner family tree diagram in the Oddcast notebook.
The sacred notebook.
Where all of my deep, dark Oddcast secrets are held.
Where your stupid headcanon is held.
BGTO, discussions, Odyssey Kids Show. Here it is. Third cousins twice removed. Alright, that makes more sense. So, yes, he last appeared in BTV Live. The last canon episode he appeared in was The Triangled Web Part 2. The first episode he appeared in was By Any Other Name, which is the reason that we're reviewing it today. So, let's get right into things with the launch.
Yes.
So,
first off, Jeff was not in this episode.
No, he wasn't.
That made me actually pretty sad. I was hoping he would be.
I was rather surprised by that.
He's mentioned
Yes.
at the beginning a couple times, but he isn't actually in the episode, and I was quite disappointed.
Just to interject first, to give her a little intro thing, it is episode 739, the launch part 1, and it's written by Dave Arnold. Let's see. Those are the things that we say at the beginning. It felt very weird to start going in like, this is the first Adventure Club episode. It was really bizarre starting to listen to it.
And the little thing that starts with Chris, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, there was a clip from Real Time, which was nice to have like an old clip, even if it was just a commercial before the episode, especially since we haven't heard from Corey Burton since the second hiatus.
I miss Corey Bird.
So we started off with a lot of stuff in Witten, and there's like buckets of continuity stuff in here that I actually found really interesting. Like, they're using the UPF website for all of this stuff, which seems a bit odd, kind of. I guess I kind of understand, because it's missions related and stuff, so it makes sense they do it through UPF and their website, but I don't know. Either way, it's still at least nice to know that there is still one organization in Odyssey that exists, or at least in this show. And then
and there were so many points in this episode where I was just like, hey, Eugene, remember that thing that you totally didn't devote
I'm getting
around 5 years of your life to?
We're getting there. So Victoria said, we get a Jeff Lewis mention, and I don't think I'm ever going to get used to the idea that he's around again.
Didn't he go back on another mission strip, though?
Yeah.
And that's where he is for this episode. So
maybe we'll get another Odyssey Adventure Club episode that's about where he is right now.
I hope we do, actually.
I don't know.
I really hope
Later
we
on,
do.
Once we're done this, we're going to talk about the episode titles for the rest of the year and our predictions for that.
In this episode or another one?
In this one.
Okay.
At the end of the launch review.
And we'll do it really quick.
As we transition into what we think next week. Yeah, it won't be very long. We don't really know a lot about the rest of the season so far. UPF went to ebooks. Ew, no.
No.
I couldn't believe that Wit would betray the written word like that, even if apparently he was still against it. It's like,
if he's against it, then how come they did it? He's in charge.
That was the whole point of the conversation, Victoria.
Yeah, I know, but I still don't understand how that works.
Because he has a board and they vote on things. Just because you're the CEO doesn't mean you can do anything that you want with your company.
Well, it should.
No, it shouldn't. Because not every CEO is John Avery Whittaker.
Well, if they are, then it should.
If every CEO in the world was John Avery Whittaker, I think we would have a lot better things to be focusing on than that. But all that aside, either way, it's really cool that we're getting all this mention of UPF, because it has been a while, and you know how continuity excites me. And then, what is this? Eugene is apparently setting up a service to enable people to help people in need.
Yeah, I know.
Literally, that's what's going on. I mean, I don't know. This is so out of character for him, enabling others to give others a hand up like this.
I know. It's like he's just walking around monitoring those sarsums and...
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Then the EduLink gets mentioned, just so that we can kill it off. I mean... They're just like, here's this thing that's exactly like an EduLink. And I'm like, oh, is it an EduLink? And they're like, no, it's not an EduLink, yet it does all the same things. Except it has an AI that's voiced by Eugene.
Named... I don't even want to. I
think it's kind of sad that we killed off the EduLink, but you know what? I am at least really glad that it was brought up in that killing off, instead of just kind of like, hey, we created this thing. No, it's not the EduLink. It's just, exactly like it. Because if they hadn't mentioned the EduLink at all, it just would seem really weird. Like, without any mention, it would be like, did Wit forget that he invented this?
I don't remember them mentioning the EduLink. I didn't hear that.
They did.
Oh.
And I was very glad that they at least acknowledged it in the fact that they're very close inventions. So already in the episode, in terms of just mentioning continuity stuff, I was quite excited. The invention itself, immediately I thought, this sounds a little OP. Time will tell in the episode, I guess.
I think it's pretty OP.
Yes, which means overpowered for those who don't speak internet. Yeah, I mean, like, it has infinite internet access wirelessly and electricity everywhere in the world with an AI inside that can do anything. It's like
Eugene
a little
cloned
sonic
himself
screwdrivery,
and made him a robot.
and then ripped out his brain and plugged it into a computer.
Who wrote this
Anyways, so
episode?
Dave Arnold.
Dave. Dave, why? Why?
So
Why would you make it named Egghead? That is the dumbest name ever. Why would you think that's a good idea? Why would you do that?
Yeah, that's a terrible name. I'm sorry. So we finally get to the crux of the episode, which is that Wit is going to be going to Uganda in order to mentor a pastor, which in my mind, mentoring a pastor sounds like a very, very, very long trip. I mean, going there to give, some pointers is one thing, but mentoring is a process that takes like months to years to do for someone. So I don't know who's running Wit's End right now. Jack's in Scotland.
Connie.
Yes.
Because Wit isn't feminist at all. Or whatever.
Yes.
I don't...
That's exactly it. Wit is not a feminist. Good job, Victoria. Margaret Faye is going to be all over you like she would on a man saying sexist things. Which in her mind is everything. I should point out, I'm not against feminism. I'm a feminist myself. But Margaret Faye is slightly insane.
She's more than slightly insane.
Well, she's not that crazy. I mean, there's a lot crazier characters on the show, but Margaret does take things a little overboard. As far as
mayors go, I'd probably say she was the second best mayor. Either second or third, like maybe tied for second with Mayor Jennings. I would have put him higher if he didn't work with Blackard, or I don't even know what was going on with him. Was he working for Blackard?
Well, he was in contact with Blackard, or at least Blackard's associates. But he was like, this is too much for me. I'm outie. Quit his job. Ran off with his grandchild, whom I'm assuming was either Ashley Jenkins Ashley is his daughter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always thought that was interesting because he talks about his grandkids, which means Ashley Jenkins must have like one heck of an older brother or sister. But anyways, back to the episode. We're super off track. I'm sorry. Wooten's coming along. He's going to die. I'm calling it right now. Let it be shown on record before I listen to the second part.
Why would you say something like that?
Because everyone in that country has a machine gun that they shoot on sight before they look at who it is.
Yeah, and Wooten could probably kill off all of them with a kazoo and a lollipop. What's your point?
Touché. So, as soon as they land in Uganda, Egghead is already being extremely OP. I'm feeling, already by this point, I was feeling quite uncertain about it. They get transported in a white truck. There's a white truck in the album cover. 0.5 or +5 accuracy for Gary Locke. I was happy about that.
Woo!
And I thought this was funny. I like how the invention, I'm just going to call it that because I hate the name, knows that it's a white truck, but it doesn't know what type of truck it is. Like it says, I suggest we should get in the white truck. It knows it's a white truck, but doesn't know the type. So it may be OP, but it's sounding a lot more like me, actually. Because it can tell it's a white truck. It obviously has some camera sensors, but has no idea what type of truck it is. So it really is a reflection of Eugene.
Okay, we need to come up with a new name for him. We're going to come up with a name. If you guys come up with any other better names, post them in the comments below. Meanwhile, we'll be thinking.
And send them to Dave Arnold.
What?
And send them to Dave Arnold.
Yeah.
I mean, we love you, Dave, but not one of your better ideas, I'm sorry to say. Unless, this was kind of a more grand thing that someone else came up with and you just had to do it. I don't know. Who's the executive producer right now again? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. Okay, names.
So, Victoria?
Yeah.
Which probably,
Yeah.
could be the episode. Executive producer is Dave Arnold right now. Okay, this is entirely on your head. Now, I'm not sure, or I wasn't sure at the time that I wrote this, and I am sure now, going back to the episode, or back to the website after I was finished listening to it, but these episodes are based on real stuff that's going on. So all the stuff about, like, CMV and the war with the Karamojong is actual stuff going on in Uganda. So that's actually pretty cool, because, we get all of these historical episodes that teach us about things that have happened in the past, but the fact that we actually get these episodes teaching us about real political struggles going on in the world today as they're happening is really legit. So good job, Odyssey. A+.
And so they get in the car, and I'm not sure how to feel about Wooten in this episode. There were some points where I was just like, and then there's other points where I'm like, no. So they get in the van, and then all of a sudden people start shooting at them.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm listening, and I'm like not paying attention for a second. I'm just like...
And then they're like, whoa.
It's just like the pilot all again. It's just
Noah, yeah.
You can't have a missionary story without something like being like, oh, okay. And then it's all like dark.
I kind of wish that I could find someone who speaks Swahili now to translate things. I mean, I don't even know how long they're going to be in Uganda, how many episodes, whether they're coming back in the next one or not, but I don't know. I think we should get, like, a translation matrix or something in our heads from the TARDIS if this is going to go on for much longer. The scene especially where I most wished...
Yeah, when he was confessing or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
she's
he's
just like,
confessing
whoa,
his
I
sins.
had no
And she's
idea.
like, wow,
I
had no idea. I was like, I really want to find
said.
someone who speaks Swahili now. Then again, maybe I don't.
Yeah,
I
my
don't
reaction was like, I really don't want to know what he just said, considering how she said, like, I had no idea.
Or it's like, wow, I had no idea.
I really don't want to know. Like,
everything got slightly more serious than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
And then all of a sudden, it was like, whew, that's relief. They change face really quickly. Like, Dr. Sparks was not kidding about shooting on first sight. She's like, it's me. They're like, oh, sorry, my bad. That was totally my fault. It's all good, brah. Like, they had, like, a whole brigade opening fire with AK-47s.
Sorry, we thought you were the other person. Could you imagine how embarrassing it would have been if we just shot you right there?
Yeah, like, ugh. It was like if GLaDOS was in Africa. That was it right there. Like, oh, my bad. I thought you were someone else. I will admit the translation thing with the invention is pretty handy. I will give it that concession.
I found it confusing.
Why?
Because he's just like, man, blah, 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 woman, blah, 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 blah. And he's, like, not pausing at all. And you can hear, like, them talking over top of it.
Well, think of this. If you spoke Swahili, it would be extremely confusing. Because here, at least, you can tune out the Swahili because it sounds like gibberish if you don't speak it, right? And you can just listen to English. If you spoke both languages, I imagine it would be very difficult to listen to that conversation because you'd be trying to hear both at once and they'd be saying slightly different things depending on how good the translation is. And it'd be like, whoa, I can't figure it out.
Well, I'm pretty sure some words would definitely point out to them, like gun, and is he gonna do what I think he's gonna do? And also buffalo or whatever they were talking about with, like, wounds. Yeah. Hat.
Yes. So they mentioned the idea
of
her...
Wait, was your first thought, like, he was the one wondering what animal was on Wooten's hat, and then Wooten, in plain English, it was just like, oh, it's this animal. I'm thinking, like, he can't understand what you're saying,
I didn't think that at all. Good.
And, like, I highly doubt that Dr. What's-Her-Face, like, told him...
was gonna translate
because then Joe would have translated it.
Exactly.
His name is Joe now.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Good catch, Victoria.
Thank you.
I'm assuming, or I was assuming at that point, as soon as they mentioned, like, you should mark your vehicle somehow, I was like, she's going to put the horns from the cattle on the front of the truck, because it's on the art for the album. And that answers my question about why Wooten didn't point it out in the first place, because I was listening to the episode, and I see, like, the art picture for the album there, and it shows them all standing against her white truck with the giant horns on the front as, like, a stampede or something is, like, all boxed in around them. And so they're like, the white truck. And I was like, hey, that's the white truck on the cover. I was like, why didn't you mention the horns? That's something Wooten would mention. And then it's like, oh, there's not horns yet, but there will be. And then there was, so I got that. Yeah, figuring stuff out. And then the last note I have for the episode is the line, please don't tell me you use a jigsaw or I'll probably faint. I was like, that was a bit of a darker joke.
Wait, what part was that?
I don't remember what that line is in relation to now. I just wrote it down. I can't remember what it was talking about.
Okay.
Something about using a jigsaw for cutting off somebody something.
Okay. Anyway, something I found interesting is there were a bunch of points. I don't know if you guys thought this too, but this episode seemed kind of long to me. Maybe that's because it was a longer than usual episode.
Well, it was 27 minutes, but that was including the commercials and stuff, so I don't
Yeah,
know
but there weren't really any commercials.
That's true. So it was a long episode, yes.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, they can make them longer because they don't have to. You cut it down for broadcast time. It's never going to be broadcast.
When they were being shot at in the car, I thought the episode was going to end there. And then I, like, checked the thing. It's, like, 11 minutes in. And I'm like, what? And then when later in the episode, when they're talking about, like, oh no, they're talking to the guy and they're just like, oh, is he going to come towards us? Is he going to kill us or something like that? And then John's translating everything or whatever I named him. And something with the J.
Could we pull like a Tuesdays with Wooten and just change the name every single time we refer to it?
I think I'm doing that anyway by accident. And so I thought the episode was going to end there, but no, it ends like 1 hour later.
Yeah, it was quite long.
I thought it was interesting, like the moral that they're putting across. I thought it was pretty good. You?
So speaking of wrapping up, we'll probably address the moral and the rating and stuff next time since it's a 2-part episode. So in our February review.
Well, apparently your prediction for the next episode is you think Wooten's gonna die, and I'm a little concerned considering you were right about the drug thing with the pilot.
So what do you think about next time?
Well, I don't think Wooten's gonna die, but considering you're right about
that wasn't a real
thing,
prediction, okay?
I'm hoping that they're not going to spend the whole album there.
I don't think they are. I saw a description, a bit of a description in an OAC email about the 3rd episode, and I was like, all I caught was like one of the Parker girls and onions. And that was all before I was like, don't look at the description. So I don't think it's taking place in Uganda.
I don't really want them to spend a really long time there because Jake is driving me insane.
Yeah.
So, you? I
really don't have very much of an idea what's going to happen, to be honest. I'm guessing that maybe Dr. Sparks will unite them together, but that does seem kind of fast. Maybe they'll be on the road to being reunited. But
also, if this is actually something that's happening now...
That's what I was going to say.
Then, yeah.
Having them reunite would be kind of weird because this is a real-life struggle in Uganda, the Karamojong War. So if they're not reunited in real life, that would seem kind of odd to do that. So that's the other thing with that. I don't know, like I said, if Uganda line is going to be going beyond just this 2-parter, but if it does, I really hope, as I said earlier, they start automatically translating things, because I don't want to have to learn Swahili. I'm guessing that next time everyone will get caught in a stampede, at the least, since it's in the art. Other than that, I really can't say. No clue.
No, they might get caught in the stampede when they're
Je ne
traveling to
puis
go
dire.
talk to the other group on the way.
Maybe. So, that's what we think is going to happen in part 2. Just the other day I realized that the other 10 titles for the OAC had all been released up to December, up to the 750th episode of Adventures in Odyssey. 3/4 of the way to 1,000. That is fantastic. Incredible. Woohoo. So, just like we did for album 57, we're going to give a quick rundown of what we think is going to happen in the rest of the year for the OAC. So, we just talked about what we think is going to happen in the second one, the launch part 2. After that comes In a Kingdom Far Away.
Apparently something with one of the Parker girls.
And Onions.
Probably Camilla. I hope
think
it's
it was
Olivia,
Camilla.
though, because I don't really... I
In the
still don't
picture,
really like
she was in a
Camilla.
princess dress, I think. Like I said, I tried to scroll away really fast. That does make sense, sort of, fitting with the kingdom theme. Not so much with the onions.
Well, it might be interesting if, like, it's a thing kind of like the old episodes with Bethany, where she'd, like, indulge in all these fantasies.
Maybe. I mean, those were half episodes.
I actually liked a couple of the half episodes.
Well, I like a couple of the half episodes, too.
I liked the Bethany half episodes, and I don't know why. Because they're so bad, yet I like them. And
They
I
are
don't know
incredibly
why.
cheesy.
Like, I listen to them a lot.
The puns are innumerable.
I don't even get the majority of the puns. It's mostly because I don't care to get them.
The next week, or the next month, is possibly the weirdest episode title ever, Drake the Cosmic Copper.
I'm guessing that that's going to be a mystery episode.
Oh, you're right. It probably is.
Yeah. It's probably going to have to do with, like, a magician or something like that.
I was going to
by
say
the
it's
name.
going to be, maybe it's the name of like a TV show or a movie or something like that, but you're right. It's totally going to be a mystery, a Jones and Parker detective agency mystery.
Also,
But-
didn't you say they're getting a new VA for Matthew?
Yes, because that is another thing that we should have told you. Zach Callison, unfortunately, will not be with us anymore. Matthew may or may not. Matthew probably will, because Zach Callison's voice has changed, and not everyone can get the same puberty treatment as Dave Griffin, unfortunately.
Dave, we love you. Come back. Come back, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
You know it's true. Everything
After
we
that-
know, we learn from you.
We have a two-parter, Mission Unaccomplished, not to be confused with Album 6, Mission Accomplished, or with Album 35's Missionary Impossible.
I'm so confused. Okay.
Yeah, once you have 750 episodes, the episode names starts to become hard not to confuse them with
hoping
other
that-
ones.
Mission Unaccomplished is going to be an action episode.
Hopefully.
Sounds like it would
Granted,
be.
just because, you're running out of episode names is not a valid excuse to name an episode Drake the Cosmic Copper.
It's true. It's all true.
Mission Unaccomplished, yeah, hopefully it's an action episode. Maybe it has Jason in it. I don't know. That would be
I
super
hope it
cool.
does. Oh my gosh, he could go on like an antiques adventure.
That would be
Like-
awesome.
Like, he just like finds this old penguin
I mean,
statue,
most like
and then he goes
it would be
on
like an
a
Indiana Jones
bidding
kind of thing,
adventure.
right?
What?
I mean, it would be like an Indiana Jones kind of thing. I mean, that fits perfect with
Yeah.
like antiques and stuff.
Yeah, plus he was kind of wasn't like his design after Indiana Jones. Like,
Well,
to
it
kind
was on the
model
cover
it.
of album 27 at the
Yeah.
least. After that, we have in July, Like a Good Neighbor. I'm guessing it's probably something like The Good Samaritan or something
I
like that.
really want an episode with Riley and Jay. Like, I want that to be an episode with Riley and Jay. It
Don't
probably
worry.
won't be.
Jay will be coming up soon, but before that, in August, we have The Lone Lawman. That's Lawman.
Please don't let it be a mystery episode, please.
It could be some kind of Old West story. I don't
Could
know.
be a kids' radio thing. We haven't gotten that
It
in a
could
long
be.
time.
It has been a while. September rolls around. 30 J's half September.
I'm looking forward to that one.
I like
If you
how
can tell.
many... We have quite a few episodes now, or at least 2 episodes off the top of my head, where we have a famous phrase replacing the word day with the word J.
Like Groundhog J. We're going to
Yes.
get a J in the Life. I have no idea when that's going to be. Probably next
Oh, that's
album.
true. There's 3. Yeah.
Yep.
A J in the Life, 30 J's Hath September, and Groundhog J. I mean, I don't know. Same pun 3 times in a row, but...
I don't really care. It just lets
Yeah,
me know
I
that
didn't
J
think you
episodes are
would.
coming up.
October brings us the perfect gift.
You'd think that'd be a December episode.
Yeah, maybe it's Jesus, probably.
In
Or chocolate.
October.
Chocolate comes in October, and chocolate is a pretty perfect gift. So
I
it
don't
could
like
be that.
chocolate.
I know. We have a product placement episode for November, the Dropbox.
That's going to be a really slow episode.
That was my pun.
I know.
That was my pun. You can't just reuse that.
I know. That's not the first time I've reused it. I told it to Gabe.
Yeah, Dropbox is very slow sometimes. All the time, in fact.
Especially when we're sending each other our clips from these videos.
Yes. That's not so bad because I don't need it right away
Anyway.
as much. But yes, the Dropbox, I'm assuming it's not talking about like the little blue box icon right here on my toolbar. But I don't know. I mean, technically, as a generic term, a Dropbox is like a drop point that secret agents use to leave valuable information and materials for someone else to collect.
It could be an antiques adventure.
It could be. And then in December, 750th episode, all by myself.
Wow, that's
Very
really
celebratory episode. For such a great
for your anniversary,
milestone.
For this giant milestone, you get to be all by yourself and no one cares about you. Congratulations.
Yay.
You know what I think all by myself could be? An antiques adventure. I really want an episode
this entire
with Jason.
show?
What?
The entire show, every episode, ever again.
Especially 30 J's
antiques.
Half September.
Yes, it's going to be all Jason and nobody else. Jason will play
He
everyone.
has the J in his name. Jason. J.
Go away. 30 Jasons Half September. This is why we don't write episodes. Alright, I think that about wraps things up for the launch part 1. We've certainly been talking long enough now, and so we'll turn you over to Devin and Victoria again for By Any Other Name, which will probably not take anywhere near as much time to talk about. And we'll send you over... Hello, everybody. We are back. You bumped your mic and it sounded like you fell over. Ugh. We are back now doing episode 106 By Any Other Name, written by Paul McCusker in memory of our beloved Dave Madden.
It wasn't written in memory of Dave Madden. We're doing it in memory of Dave Madden.
That's what I said. We're doing it in memory of Dave Madden because he passed away January 16th, which is very sad. He played Bernard. This is Bernard's first episode. QED.
My necklaces are all... It's annoying. There.
So, there's not a whole lot to say about this episode that I really have, especially not a lot about Bernard, because as I was doing this episode, I realized he's barely in this episode.
And I suggested to Devin that we should do a different episode, and he's like, no, because it's the first one, and then he listened to it, and he's just like,
We were already too far into the planning process by the time Victoria suggested it. It was too late to turn things around.
Even though I was right.
Yes. So, Bernard, sadness. I know, ever since the Oddcast started, we've talked about it all the time, how sad we are about Bernard being gone and wanting Dave Madden to come back, and now he can't, and it's very sad.
Unless they do those things where they take, like, the clips and they, like, splice them in.
But they wouldn't do that. Especially because he hasn't been on the show in 8 years anyways.
That long?
I'm pretty sure. I can check.
No, it's okay. I don't want to know. Stop checking. I don't want to know.
I'm not checking anymore.
Okay, good.
Okay, to jump into things, Phil the Flim Flam Man Phillips. Corporate takeovers, Bernard says, I really hate to break it to Bernard, but Wits End is already owned by a huge publishing conglomerate, so you're a little too late on that one. It's amazing, I think, that there isn't more interaction between Kurt and Bernard in this episode, considering how well their characters play off each other. And I guess it's just due to the fact that neither of their characters were really developed enough yet in the minds of the writers for that to have been a thing that happened, considering that this was Bernard's first episode and it was Kurt's second episode. He only first appeared 3 episodes ago in Front Page News.
Always interesting when they interact. Like, Bernard was the one who gave Kurt advice in the Triangle of Web. And they also share, like, a lot of other scenes together and stuff like that. And when you also think about it, when you come to One Bad Apple, like,
the fact
Kurt
that they were switched out for
Bernard.
the other. Exactly.
So that explains why they play off each other so well, because they can fill each other's roles when the other one isn't available.
Although they also are quite different. I mean, you think about the role that they play together in
No, they're nothing alike. I'm just saying.
It's like Kurt is the one who's being overly optimistic and naive about things, and Bernard is playing off of that as being like the overly sarcastic one, leading him astray.
Like the twins
sort
in
of.
Tamaki.
Yes, exactly. Not that I'd normally compare Kurt Stevens to Tamaki.
No, I wouldn't. No.
Weird comparison. But like I was saying, this was both extremely early in their processes of character development, so it makes sense that they weren't really having lots of stuff together, but their day would certainly come, so at least they got to share their last canon episode together, which was, as you said, the Triangled Web. Excuse me.
About to say something, can't remember what it was. Hate it when that happens.
It does happen a lot. Bernard, in that he only has a very small part, he still has an amazing amount of sass and...
Sorry, you go first.
Go on. Okay. He has an amazing amount of sass and character in this episode. It's kind of interesting, though, because it's very, like, that's all there is for the most part. And you can kind of tell that in that Bernard's character was centered around the idea of Dave Madden playing a curmudgeon, just like he did as Reuben Kincaid in the Partridge Family. So in this episode,
Bernard is way more of a curmudgeon than Reuben is.
Yes,
though.
That's true. But I mean, in this episode, in Bernard's first episode, he is basically like curmudgeonly about everything and not really... He doesn't really do anything else outside of that. So you can really see how that's the central trait that they built his character off of, because in his first episode, that's all that he really was. And then, we started building onto him. What else is he? He's an incredible storyteller that tells Bible stories and run BTV, and he's cousins with Eugene and everything else that we love about him.
Also, Maud appears very early on in the series. I'm glad that she's played by Chris, because that means they can just, they don't just have to, take one actor that they have to randomly, dig up again out of the blue when it comes to episodes like Prequels of Love, because Chris has been there the whole time.
Yeah, Chris is always at every recording session.
Chris is always watching.
So, as I was saying, I think that's really interesting to think about Bernard's character in that light, because that was his defining characteristic in terms of his character creation, that's the one that comes through almost solely in his first episode like that. What were you going to say? Oh,
right. It's kind of interesting if you think about it, because Kurt is one of the first characters, that kind of points out, these weird things with the government or something like that, or all these conspiracy theories. He's kind of
should have known you were going to turn this into a Jared thing.
But not way, not even half Jared intense. But they were kind of going with that for Jack.
Well, they both want to take over the government.
Yeah,
I mean, there's that.
But they're still really different. And also for Jared and Kurt, they both had lines about wanting to take over the government and just being But, they kind of tried to do that with Jack Davis, it kind of seems, first couple episodes. Like, trying to be, like
Rumor
super
has it, you mean?
carried away and imaginative. They kind of did, like,
Yes.
that
Harley
with...
takes the case, and
Yeah. And they also did that
Heatwave.
with Lawrence. Lawrence and Jack are very similar.
Well, I mean, that's why Lawrence replaced Jack in
Yeah, I
Harley
know.
Takes the Case, and then it became... The Return of Harley,
Okay,
which then
Lawrence,
became...
Jack, and Trent are all very similar.
Yes.
Which makes it really interesting that Jack and Kurt were friends, because they, like, play off each other really well, a lot like Trent and Jared do.
Who are brothers.
Yeah.
That's a cool thought. Good thinking, Victoria.
Thank you.
I really like how this episode fits together with It Takes Integrity, because at first they seem like they're very similar episodes, because they're both
I know,
about
I always
Kurt
have
running
to
in.
listen to all 4 of those episodes, right, like, consecutively.
It seems like they're similar episodes because they're both about Kurt running in school elections, but they really aren't. Because not only does the latter focus on Lucy instead of Kurt, but the theme is entirely different, and it really brings a much different tone to the episode. And the latter is a lot heavier because it builds off of this episode and Muckraker and Home is Where the Herd Is, and I'm assuming those are the other 2 episodes you were talking about.
It's always super interesting because, for those of you who have been watching, like, every single episode of our podcast, we mentioned a couple times that...
Which is probably, like, just Austin, to be fair.
Yeah. That we got all our Odyssey... The majority of our Odyssey albums we originally got out of order, so we listened to them out of order. And one of the first ones we got was... probably about, like, the 3rd one we got or something like that was album 13. So when we listened to It Takes Integrity, we had no idea what Muckraker was, and we had no idea about what any other name was about, and we had no idea, the big thing, what the deal with Kurt's father was.
Yeah.
And that always really confused us.
On the topic of comparing this episode, I thought this was interesting. I'll read this post I put on Facebook a couple hours ago as I was writing about this. I really like how Odyssey has been going on for so long that not only has it covered just about every slice of life show trope in existence, but it's covered a whole bunch of them in a number of different episodes. So in this example, we have like the token school election episode. Most shows that feature any kind of middle school or high school setting have, that one episode about the school election. Odyssey, on the other hand, has, by any other name, It Takes Integrity, The Election Deception, Natural Born Leader, and A Single Vote might count if you want to get picky. So it's interesting because it has all these episodes covering the same thing, but they're not all covering the same thing because it's taking one trope and it's splitting them apart, or splitting it apart across multiple episodes, and that allows you to have each, instead of just taking it and then getting kind of the normal lesson you'd get out of it, assuming we're even talking about it being used in shows that have a moral to the episode. Instead of doing it in the stereotypical way, by spreading it apart and doing it in different episodes, each episode can focus on sort of this different aspect of the idea, and then you can pick it apart and look at the different pieces. Because by any other name, It Takes Integrity, The Election Deception, and Natural Born Leader, I won't really count a single vote, because even though it includes a school election, that's not really what it's about. Those 4 episodes may all be like middle school or high school election episodes, but they all focus on different themes, which is interesting. And that's something that I love about Odyssey. The same thing when we were doing our Thanksgiving episode, we have 4 Thanksgiving episodes on Odyssey, 6 if you count Stepping Stones. There's just so many episodes of this show, it's like, where do you even start? Speaking of the election, because Kurt ends up getting elected at the end of the episode, I wonder if anyone attending Odyssey Middle School during this time was actually still around by the time album 13 rolled around. Because you'd think after they elected Kurt and realized what happened when they elected Kurt, they would have learned their lesson by the time album 13 came around, because they already knew what happens when you elect Kurt Stevens. So,
well, considering they're in Odyssey, they have a bunch of problems on their mind at every moment, and they probably block out the majority of things that Kurt does from their memory.
that's
At
true.
least I would. So, can't really blame them. Like, there have been times where something's annoyed me so much when I go back and I find something about it again, and I'm told, like, I've already seen that video or that movie or that thing before. I just have, like, zero memory of it, even though I actually have seen it, because I just somehow completely blocked it out.
Fair enough.
At least I'm pretty sure that's what Lucy does to him.
What kind of name is Phil Phillips? Who would name their child Phil Phillips?
Apparently Paul thought it was a good name.
Who would trust a businessman named Phil Phillips?
That's, like, very judgmental, Devin. Maybe you should listen to Book by its cover.
I'm just saying, his name is Philip Phillips.
So, when you're running out of good names,
Just reuse them.
I always make jokes about people having the same first and last name.
I'm pretty sure that Wits End is the last business in Odyssey, and probably in all of Campbell County, that would ever suffer financial trouble. Especially considering the fact that none of the finances for the business come from the business. They're all paid for by UPF, which is a huge, like, multinational conglomeration. So I don't think Wits End is in the slightest bit of financial trouble, because Wit's like a billionaire or whatever. So yeah, raw metal power push Stargate. But we're getting there. I thought for years that the word rhetoric was spelled like Rederic, like it sounds the way you pronounce it, because I'd only heard it from this episode. So that's the way I pictured it in my mind. It wasn't until Bart pronounced it as, "It's not rhetoric, Brian," that I realized that rhetoric is actually like rhetoric, like it's the root of rhetorical, like rhetorical question. That it's RHET, like that. And I was like, it took me so long to figure that out, and the word itself made so much more sense after that. The Superman thing. This is the most dating thing of the episode, and it dates this episode like nobody's business. Kurt physically cut out a physical photograph of his face and physically pasted it on a physical picture of Superman. Like, is that how people edited pictures before Photoshop came along?
I don't know. Why don't you go back in time and ask them?
Like, just the imagination runs wild with how terrible it would look to have a picture of Superman where Kurt, like, cut out the head from one of his school pictures and glue sticked it onto the picture and then hung that up around the school. Like,
it'd be like Atomic Keyface over Batman.
Granted, I doubt that he would have been able to do much with Photoshop either for making himself look like Superman, but the point still stands. And like I said, it really does date this episode that that's how people would edit photographs, is by using scissors and paste.
At least you didn't use something else, like, oh, I stapled my head to a cardboard cutout to inspire people.
That's
Not
true.
your actual head, like a picture of his head.
Yeah, I got that.
It'd be interesting if you did his actual head, though.
We move to the climax scene of the episode as Whit talks to Kurt and Kurt talks to Whit, and then Whit talks to Phil, and then Phil talks to Whit.
He just, like,
and then Phil leaves,
whips him.
and then the police come. He does.
I don't even know how to say it. It's just like
those
rare-ish moments where it's just like, I ain't having any yo shenanigans, and then he's just like, police, get over here, and then he's just like, you just been witted. You just reached your wit's end, sucker, and then he just like walks away.
We have Kurt and Witt's line about, "You should be a politician." Why? "I didn't understand a word you said, but it sounded like it makes perfect sense." If that isn't the perfect descriptor of modern politics, I don't know what is.
Okay, the names thing needs to be addressed.
It's coming there. Phil comes in first, suggests that $5 be paid per imagination station ride.
That's
And
outrageous. Can you imagine how much, like...
Considering what the imagination
Money?
station does, that is really more than reasonable, I would think.
Okay,
Although I
yeah,
do see Whit's
guess it's
point about
Imagine
how
how
it would
much
go.
money they would have made during a touch of healing.
I do see Whit's point about how it would go against everything that Whit's End
Like,
is
could you
about.
imagine that?
Yeah, but think of what the publicity would be if it came out that Jason Whittaker was charging disabled kids money for a service that didn't cost him anything.
Yeah, but if he was charging for people to use the imagination station the whole time, then it wouldn't have looked bad.
That's true. But, like, I understand what he means, you know.
No,
that
I
would
mean,
go
like,
against
I
what
am
Whit's End is
totally
about.
against them charging money for the imagination
I
station,
don't-
I'm
yeah.
just saying.
Yeah, I realize that. So, yes. The raw metal power push starcade, which is probably the greatest phrase ever to be uttered on this entire show. Or even better, Wit's raw metal power push starcade.
Because it's such an upgrade from the original.
I mean, I can see
Where would you
how
even come up with a name like that?
I can see how Witt figured out that he wasn't a real marketing expert. And it wasn't because he wasn't respecting people's intelligence. Let me tell you that.
Although, if you go into a store called Wit's Metal Tower Push Starcade,
What would you
you're
even
just
expect to
insulting your
find?
own intelligence just
What would
walking
you
in
expect to
there.
find in a place called Witt's Raw Metal Power Push Starcade? It sounds
Apparently
like
ice cream.
it sounds like an arcade crossed with a strip bar or something like that.
I was trying not to say that, just so you know. I was trying really hard.
From the 70s.
I'm just gonna stay in this corner for a minute.
And so, as you were saying, Witt finally lays the smack down on Phil.
I love it when Wit gets angry. He just, like, takes none of that. And then, like, you see it a lot in the action sagas like Novacom.
Yeah.
When, like, Mr. Charles annoys him and he's just like, "Get out of here." Mr. Charles is like, whoa, I'm gonna go back to Wooten mode where you actually like me and you don't yell at me.
Phil Phillips made 3 really big mistakes in this episode. The first was coming to Odyssey. The second was ever talking to Witt. And the third was saying that he was from Chicago. Because what he doesn't realize is that Witt owns that town. Witt is like the mobster kingpin of Chicago, which is in itself like the mobster kingpin city. If you've dropped a pin in the business of the Windy City, Witt will find out about it, and he will find you.
And he will kill you.
Also, on that subject,
There's if you drop a pin on the ground in Chicago, Witt will find it, and he will know about it.
he will stab you repeatedly with that
That's
pin.
probably true, though, too. That if, like, anything happens anywhere, he knows. He always...
Exactly, because he's like, what, from Chicago? Is it this and this and this? Because I talk to all my friends, because I know everybody who lives in that town. I'm really glad that the Chicago police have enough creativity to come up with fun names, like Phil the Flim Flam Man Phillips for their criminals. Like, do they have an entire department who just comes up with names like that for their criminals? I mean,
we need to find that man and to get him to help us come up with a better name for Josh.
He should be the marketing expert. Phil the Flim Flam Man Phillips is a way better name than what's Raw Metal Power Push Starcade. That's the real marketing expert he should have gone to.
Well, technically speaking, Witt didn't go to any marketing experts.
Yeah.
They came to him.
That's true. Oh,
okay,
boy.
Witt's names. Can we talk about that now?
Witt's names?
Yeah, the names that he gives Witt.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, throughout the episode. I was listening to this episode the other day while I was working on work during my spare, so when I don't have a block during school in the library, and there were only like a couple people in there, and it was like really dead quiet, and I'm listening to Odyssey while I'm working, and then every single time he says Mr. J.A. Willamers or Willikers or whatever, I just like burst out laughing, and then like some people are just like, and I'm just like going like this, and I just like put my head down on the table, and I'm just like, I can't. No, I'm kidding. I just like I smiled and I laughed really quietly, but I don't think anyone noticed. At least I hope they didn't notice.
The thing I find funniest about those names is the fact that at one point he calls him Mr. Willikers instead of Whitaker, and he's always messing up his first name. And if he had called him one that started with a G instead of a J, then he would have been calling him Mr. G. Willikers, which I find infinitely amusing. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
As just before, or just after he runs off and gets captured by the sheriff's department, Whit says to Kurt, "A good marketing person has respect for people's intelligence." And I really have to wonder what Whit's experience with advertising in the real world is. I don't know if he watches commercials on TV or on the internet, which wasn't invented when
maybe
this
back
episode
then
came
when
out.
people used to paste their heads over Superman, it was different. But
Exactly,
nowadays,
like, good marketing person has respect for people's intelligence. Really,
Brock!
Whit? Are you sure?
Brock. We all love Brock.
Yes.
Brock does.
Oh,
'cause
that's
he's
true.
Brock, and he's awesome. We love you, Brock.
You can really tell that these are the early days with Kurt because Whit actually believed that Kurt had taken his lesson to heart. He even told Bernard that he was pretty sure that Kurt had taken the lesson to heart. You can tell they hadn't had much interaction yet.
It's always weird when a new kid character is introduced, and then like you've listened to the episode so many times, like me and Devin, that like every single time, even if it's their first episode, you might not think about it being their first episode if they don't like make a big fuss over it, like, oh hey, this new kid's come to town. Like if it's just like one kid and they're just like a part of the episode, but they never mention it's their first one, you don't think about it. Like also the other day I was listening to This Is Chad Pearson, and so
That's
then
the first one
Connie,
with Erica, isn't it?
what?
Is that the first one with Erica?
Yeah, I think it's one of the first ones with Erica, who, for those of you who don't know, ends up having a pretty decent kid character role. Like,
Oh, I never
know,
really thought about her relation with soap operas and with this episode before.
Yeah, I did.
I never that.
It must have been when she first got hooked. It's all Chad's fault.
It's how he used to get. Well, she already had like 24 posters of him on her wall.
Still,
I mean, it wasn't just this
only
episode, but yeah.
It all started with a mouse. Anyway, so then at one point, Connie, she's like, Connie, can I follow you around and like stalk you and guys and stuff? And she's like,
Sure, whatever.
Okay, who are you? And I'm just like listening, and that line always gets me. I'm thinking like, is she serious? And then she's like, I'm
true.
Erica. And then I'm just
true.
like
You're
thinking
right.
like,
Good
oh my
ear,
gosh,
Victoria.
this is one of her first episodes. Like, I think it might
be her
actually
first.
be
It
her first
probably is.
episode in the show.
Good catch. This is why I keep you around, Victoria.
Also, the fact that we're family doesn't have anything to do with it, I'm guessing.
Exactly. It's interesting. Just to go back into the corner again.
I'm just going to go back into the corner.
It's interesting that we never hear anything that came of the rest of Kurt's reign as student body representative.
I think that's for the best. We don't want to know.
Considering how rooted his character is in politics, my guess is it's probably because they threw him out of office after 2 days.
He was probably kicked out after 2 minutes.
Well, I think where he's running through wit's end is more than 2 minutes after that. So let's give him a fair time. They at least had to have a meeting first. And, final point. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Maybe people thought he deserved a second chance, so that's why they voted for him, and it takes integrity because he never got a chance.
Maybe. I like how, looking at the intro and outro for this episode with the whole Chris gets replaced by The
Okay,
Adventures in
who
Anthology
voices
People.
that guy? His voice is so annoying.
I don't know.
Like, every
I
single time I just hear his voice, I always, like, cringe, because I'm like,
I never realized this until this time, but according to the ending wrap-up, Bob was sitting in the sound booth for the entire episode, it seems like. Through the entire switchover of announcers and everything, he was just sitting comfy in the sound booth. Like, everyone got turned over, but they're like, no, Bob Luttrell can stay. Because it's like, she just gets back, and then Bob's like, episode's over, Chris, just do the wrap-up. He was just
he's
like...
just, like, sitting there the
kicking
whole
back.
time in the corner, just, like, watching Chris get, like, dragged away by force.
Exactly.
And no
Yep.
wonder in episodes to come around, like, 40s-ish, they always have moments at the end where Chris is just like, yeah, blah, blah. Who was the one with, like, the I'll get to it?
I think that was probably Bob, too.
Yeah. No wonder she didn't want to do anything for him. She's like, I'll deal with you. She's like, I don't even want to speak to you, much less work with you. So,
To deck things on to the end, we have the official guide thingy in here on the episode, which is a featurette on Bernard Walton, so I'll read it, and I quote again. Stuff me with feathers and call me a pillow. The introduction of Bernard Walton. The episode, by any other name, introduced everyone's favorite window washer, Bernard Walton. Actor Dave Madden's portrayal of Bernard was heavily influenced by the Reuben Kincaid character he played on the television show The Partridge Family, and by Dave's own personality. Many of Bernard's lines, such as, "I'd have to get better to die," were actual Dave Madden quotes. The Odyssey team originally imagined Bernard's character as an Eeyore type who always mumbled under-the-breath lines. Through Dave's vocal performance, Bernard became one of Odyssey's most endearing characters, and soon revealed that there was a real heart beneath all his complaining. The first episode that showed a quirky side of Bernard was Suspicious Minds. He got some rather malicious enjoyment out of Eugene and Connie's silliness as they tried to catch the criminal. Dave Madden ad-libbed Bernard's continual chuckle through the last scene. It broadened the character of Bernard even further. When told he made the script even better because of his performance, Dave Madden replied, "Well, that's the job of a good actor. If all we do is read what's on the page, you could get anybody." Unquote.
I'm gonna cry.
Oh, sadness. We miss you, Dave.
I'm not just saying that just so you guys know.
No, she's not. Final thoughts on the episode, Victoria?
You go first.
All right. By any other name, in terms of doing it as a Bernard episode, there's not a whole lot to say because he's really not in it very much. It introduces his character, which is very exciting.
It's a
As I
strong
said,
introduction, even though it's, yeah.
it gets the point across, as I was saying earlier, because it really just kind of continually drives home the point of the single central trait on which his character was built, which is his curmudgeonly Eeyore-ness, as I mentioned earlier. And you can really see how this is his first episode because that's like the one thing that comes through. And it's different than how he is in most future episodes because his character hasn't hit that full development yet. Kurt, this is his second episode. It's the first one where you see his political aspirations, and, you know, there's certainly more to come. Whether it's more school stuff, or it's, you know, being mayor for a day of Odyssey.
What was Kurt's first episode?
Front page news.
Well, you kind of see it in there, too.
Yeah, but that's not political. But even from his first episode, you do get, you know, the idea of his do anything to get out of work sense and his relationship with Lucy. This episode established the connection that he has with Lucy, and that, of course, carried on forever all the way into album 50. The story itself is great. We get to see Wit, you know, get angry and take a stand against something. We get kind of reference to Wit's bigger ties in the world of business.
And Chicago.
Well, yeah. That's
Because
sort of what I
this
meant.
is before Waylaid.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about this episode, honestly. We didn't pick it because it was something that we were going to have oodles and noodles to talk about with regards to it. It was one we picked because it was the first one with Bernard Walton. The theme itself is, of course, a very good one, and it applies across a broad spectrum of things, whether it be marketing or politics or anything, right? I like the way Wit puts it at the end. In the broadest terms of the theme in the episode, that, you know, it still lies, whether or not you call it rhetoric or campaign promises, and it's, you know, Wit's End is still Wit's End, whether you call it Wit's End or the raw metal power push Starcade, and sin is still sin, no matter what you call it. And that's a really good point, because that is extremely relevant. You think about in the world today, and with all of the flipping flopping of New Age religions and the way that they focus on kind of decentralizing the idea of sin and negative actions towards others, and you know, you play the name game, just like Wit says, and you switch things around in order to turn things into other things. The materialist magician, as C.S. Lewis puts it, is another example of the name game, in which enables people of the New Age philosophy to be able to completely believe in the existence of evil spirits and demons, and yet completely scoff at the mention of God existing. So it is something that's very relevant today. Even if it's not fully explored in the episode in that context, it's still a very good thing to be mentioned. And of course the title, you know, it's a good title because it's like Romeo and Juliet, which is cool. So I would give it 3.8 out of 5. That was a terrible summation. I really couldn't think of a whole lot of overtoning things to say.
Lots of stuff I was going to say you took. There's good humor in this episode. The interesting thing about this is I'm going to compare it a little bit to Front Page News. I have a little mind list of that. First thing is they're talking about, they're like being compared to like a bunch of writers and stuff like that, and Kurt even quotes some Romeo and Juliet in Front Page News, and then this is the name of his second episode. That's interesting. And another thing is, in Front Page News, it kind of doesn't really make it look that much like him and Lucy are friends. It kind of looks more like they're like frenemies, not really friends,
Which they basically
but more like
are.
acquaintances, but they don't really get along at all. Like,
Yeah, it makes it look like he's a lot closer to Oscar than Lucy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he isn't. He's like Jack and Oscar. They got their little Moirelle ship going on over there. Anyway, so yeah, always the interesting thing I found is he always made it look like, and Lucy too, that they did not like each other very much in Front Page News. And then you go on and you find out, like, you go on to this episode and you find out they're actually like decent-ish friends.
It is actually kind of like a kismicitude.
Yeah, they argue a lot, and then you go on to episodes like Home is Where the Herd Is, and It Takes Integrity, and you find out they're actually really good friends. So I guess that was just like it's interesting with them, you kind of get to see their friendship build. Like, maybe it's just you're getting to see like it just like peeling off the layers of their friendship, and it's just like showing the viewer more intricate details of their friendship that they don't have enough time to show in Front Page News, or like they have more time to show in this one. Either that, or we actually do get to see their friendship develop across time. And it's always interesting to me because this is never mentioned in the show until all the way in the Triangled Web, that they actually did, even though it didn't really happen, go out.
Well, they did go out. They didn't go to
her.
Well, no, he ditched her for like the prom or the homecoming or whatever, but they did go out before that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So you see that, yeah, they actually have quite an interesting relationship. Lucy has a lot of interesting relationships
Yes, she
with
does.
the guys of Odyssey. I'm not just
And then
saying
they all
that.
clash in the triangle web.
No, I'm not just saying that because of the triangled web. Like, I'm saying that totally ignoring.
Yeah, that is true, though.
The
And all the
triangled web.
girls, too. I mean, Lucy is in more episodes than any other kid character ever on all of Odyssey.
She is?
Yeah. You don't remember that from her characters?
I thought it was like Jimmy or something like that.
Nope. She's in way more episodes than Jimmy. Because Lucy has, like, you know, a unique relationship with Jack and with Donna and with Robin and with Kurt, and not really with Jimmy, actually, but with like...
I don't know, pretty much everyone.
With Connie.
Rodney, Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac. I almost forgot Isaac.
Everyone forgets Isaac. Sorry, that was horrible. Sam.
Glenn. Sam, yes.
Sam's
Sam.
nickname is Lucy's friend. How
Glenn
sad
Adams.
is that? And then there's Lucy's friend, Sam. Not just Sam. You need to know that he's Lucy's friend. That makes him more important.
What is your final rating for the episode?
You could put Lucy's friend in front of pretty much any Odyssey character's name.
That's true.
And then just to
Blackguard's
boost
friend
their
Lucy.
importance.
Oh, that even does
Rodney,
work. That I
Lucy's
said
friend.
Blackguard's friend, or Lucy's friend Blackguard, but that does work too.
Richard.
Yes.
How are we leaving out Richard?
I was going to say Richard.
Richard! I love him so much. Okay. I was about to say, like, I give this, 5 stars because of Richard, but he's not in this one, unfortunately.
5 stars for Richard just because Lucy's in the episode. What's your rating, Victoria?
Probably about 2.5. Because, the humor's pretty good. It's Bernard's first episode, which is really awesome. I really like Lucy and Kurt. And yeah, wit being strong, not taking any of their
Kingpin
shenanigans.
of the Windy City.
What?
The mobster kingpin of the Windy City.
Nothing.
Wit is pretty cool.
Nothing goes by without him knowing about it.
Nope.
Ain't no thing that you can do against the power of J.A. Whittaker.
J.A. Willimer. Ain't no man
Mr. Willikers.
enough. No. So, next week, I have to break myself of the habit saying next week because we're doing episodes every 2 weeks now. Next episode, Victoria, qu'est-ce que nous faisons?
I honestly can't remember.
We are going to do the next Beginner's Guide to Odyssey video.
Oh, right,
number
we're doing
3.
inventions.
Yes, inventions. The Imagination Station, the Room of Consequence, the Edulink.
The Room of Consequence. All my favorite episodes are Room of Consequence ones, and I don't know why.
We're not doing Jade.
What?
Jade, Joe, John, Jake. The thing. The thing with the face that we're not.
Yeah. That thing that sounds like Eugene.
Yes. We're not doing that invention, but all the other big ones and memorable ones we'll be talking about and explaining for those of you who don't know about them or forgotten about them or what the heck, I don't know. After all, like we always say, they're reference videos. They're not really there for you to watch recreationally, unless you want to, if you don't have a life like us.
That's why we're doing these videos for you guys. We have nothing better to do.
Not like I'm in university or anything. I have all the time
It's
in
not
the
like
world.
I have a bunch of homework I should be doing right now.
No, of course not.
You guys are all that matter.
Yes.
So please leave a comment for what you want whatever's face's name to be.
Yes, what should we refer to it as? Tell us.
Seriously,
down
if
below.
you guys give us a name, we will actually use it.
Probably, depending on what name you give it.
Yeah, if it's inappropriate.
Careful,
then we won't.
Victoria. This is
If
YouTube.
it's inappropriate, then we won't. But if you call it
Or if the name is
Connie or
Egghead,
something
we're not
like
using
that, we
that
probably
either.
won't use that either because it'll get really confusing.
I think that's about everything we have for now because we've already gone way over time. So, thank you for
We could
joining.
call it Eugenius.
Yes.
Do you want
yes.
to?
Okay. Don't leave
Okay,
anything
never
down
mind.
in the description. Forget all of that. Forget it all. We're going with Eugenius from now on. End of story.
Well, you could leave it, but we'll just ignore it
Yes. Leave a comment down anyways.
because
But
you
we'll
love us.
just because, just so we know that people watch our videos. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
On that wonderful note, I'm Devin Francis,
And I am Victoria,
and you've been watching
the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. I don't know why I did it like that.
with a flourish. Let's stop. Okay, episode 06.
What are you doing?
What you were doing. We're going way back.
Into the way back. Well, so many McAllister Park references in this episode.
And who we're filming too, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So
Are we gonna
stop
have
dancing.
bloopers on this episode?
What?
Are we gonna have bloopers on this episode?
Apparently, considering you keep on dancing.
Apparently. Okay, let's start.